All right, so we're here for another episode of Dane's Platform, and I am privileged to have Rachel Fatherly sitting next to me. Rachel, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks.
I'm so excited that you're here, and I get to ask you all the pressing questions that I get to ask. No, but seriously. So Rachel, I'm going to introduce her as, so she started throwing for Garage Strength in 2016. So she went to Penn State, and we were sort of introduced through Monique Riddick. So Mo was throwing for me. I don't know how you guys ever got talking on it. I think she might have been at a meet at Penn State or something and had talked with you, and you had said you wanted to try and keep throwing. And Mo brought you to the barn. So this is before we moved into our current location. And, you know, Rachel came to the barn, and my first impression was, what the hell is she doing with her technique? But I knew that she could move well, and I could see right away. I was like, watching her throw, thinking, Rachel can move really well. So about maybe a week or 2 weeks before the 2016 Olympic trials, she told me that she wanted to work with me post-collegiately. So we had a couple sessions, went to Olympic trials, and I'd say like the Olympic trials is like almost like our baseline, like our starting point of where we were, which you threw, I want to say like 15, 23, something like that.
Yeah, it was like right around 50.
Yeah, so you didn't throw well, but that was the start of sort of our relationship. And I think what was cool about that is like you and I got to hang out a little bit too. Like I remember going to that museum and doing stuff like that. So it was sort of like a cool period for us to get to know each other. And so Rachel ends up moving to Reading, and she moves to Reading. I want to say it was August of that summer. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so August of that summer. So that's 2016. So we're like 2 years out right now from when we first started working together. And came in and just went, full bore into the whole training program, the whole training system. And so what's cool is she's sort of seen us go from being at the barn, now being here at the new place, at the garage again. And you've been here that whole time with Sam as well. So I think it's a pretty cool, like you guys are like the first real legit post-collegiate group. But so, that first year you went to indoors, threw okay. What did you throw there?
Probably, I think around 51, 52. Okay,
and then outdoors you qualified well. You threw over the world standard that first year. 1776, I believe, was what you hit there, and I think you threw over 1753 times that first year. 1751 you threw at when you were in Ashland.
Mm-hmm.
17. What did you throw?
1776 at
Calness's meet.
Yep.
And then at the Power Fest you threw pretty well.
1757.
Yeah, and then when you competed at USA's, I think you threw 1614. You got like 13th or 14th place. And for me as a coach, I knew you were capable of more. I think you knew you were capable of more, and I was interested to see how you responded, and how you responded to USA's that year, and so we're talking about 2017, what was in California, and I think that showed me, because it was like, all right, you basically came right back into training. We had the PA Power Fest at the end of the summer. You threw 1758, 1757, I think you said.
Yep.
Competed well, and it's almost been, so that's been about a year. It's been since that happened, and all of last year, we were working on a whole bunch of big picture stuff with your technique, and even with doing a whole bunch of still continuing this long technical revamp of your throwing style, you've been able to continually progress and get stronger mentally, get stronger physically, improve your mobility, improve your nutrition, improve your recovery. And so Rachel goes to U.S. Indoors and got 7th place at U.S. Indoors, and then from the first flight at U.S. Outdoors. So this is in Des Moines, and we're sitting there, Sam's, and this is where I think it really shows what you did from that first year with us, at Garage Strength to that second year, is that you're throwing. I was able to see your first 2 or 3 throws. You hit a 17. What was it? 1770s.
It was 1778.
Yes, I think it was 1778 on your second throw. And what's even better about that is that you had, a 15 low first throw, but you were moving pretty well, and it just came off your hand bad, and that second throw, you just went in and smashed it. There was no doubt that you knew you could hit that mark. And that mark set you up. And so I'm running to Coach Sam at discus while Mo's throwing in the second flight. And I think you can make it, to the final. Sam's throwing well. I'm checking the updates. Mo went 18-20. You sneak in. You get, I think you might have even been in 7th place, and then I think you got bumped down.
Yeah.
But you get into the finals. You're in 7th place. I run back to the women's shot, and you hung in. You competed well that whole entire meet, and then that sort of leads into this coming year where we're at. So after those starting at 2016 with a 15-meter throw at the Olympic trials, and then 2 years later hitting 1770 plus, at the big show basically at U.S. Nationals. So now we're looking at you're a 2-time finalist, and that's sort of where we're at. That's my long-winded, very roundabout way of explaining the last 2 years and who you are, and you are the Penn State record holder in the shot, and that's, for me, it almost feels like a whole nother life, and I don't know if that's.
I definitely agree.
Okay,
yeah.
So I think what's cool is that I just did an Ask Me Anything on Throws You, and everybody's like asking these questions along the lines of what's one thing that that you can really focus on, and I think what's so special about what you've done, and not that this has been easy, but you've been able to sit there and take these big picture things and piece together good, solid technical improvement over time to get to the point where we are today, where today, literally 4 hours ago, we're able to start really focusing on some smaller, fine details in the throw, because now the big picture is where it's at. So that's where I'm at as a coach. So I want to see, when you first came in, I guess walk me through what was that first 6 months like, where one, you're adapting to a new training system, and you're adapting to a whole new technical perspective. And I think that's one thing that I have to throw in there too, is that now where we're at is like you get technique, you understand it, you feel it differently. Whereas those first 6 months, I could tell you things over and over again, but it's like you didn't fully get it because you didn't do it before. You'd never really heard it, and you hadn't really been instructed to do that. So I guess that's where my first question is like, what those first 6 months, what's it like, especially as a post-collegiate where you don't have school anymore, you don't have that support system, and then on top of that, you're basically getting thrown to the wolves with me. So how were you able to keep your head on straight as well as you did? At least as well as, in my mind, you kept your head on straight very well that whole time. And maybe, I don't know, but I think you handled that transition period really well.
I think that, the motivation of, being better was, always in the background. I think that mobility was, the most difficult thing that I struggled with, because I remember the first time I snatched at the barn, and you were like, what in the world is that? And, my mobility was so bad, and just being able to get through all of that. And then throwing-wise, I remember, we literally started from walking through the circle, and that was the most difficult process, because I was jumping so high that, I thought that was normal. And so I was getting, frustrated at times, because I remember you were like, we're not going to mark. We have to, stay grounded and, learn how to, use the basic technique.
Right. So you think that's, I guess for me it was and there was even some days where I would sit there and be like, I didn't know, like, were you bought in? And that's where, because I just started working with you, and that was my biggest fear. Is that I remember coming home and talking to Caitlin and being like, dude, I just hope she can get through this 6 to 12 month time frame, because if I knew, you buy in, and if you just keep buying in and buying in, it's gonna happen. But that first 6 months, it's like,
I feel like the first meet was like really rough because I threw like around 50 or 51, and like the next 4 were like that during indoor, and I was just like, you kept saying like keep going, like it'll all click, and then when it finally did, I remember I threw like 56 at Lehigh, and then I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then I knew that there was definitely a lot more. But I think that like technique, or like learning to use technique, was probably the most difficult because I wasn't built on a foundation of like technique. It was just like throw far, and like I wasn't used to being technically sound.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the most difficult part that I struggled with, because like I had like a meathead mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just like, I didn't really care what it looked like as long as it was going far.
And I think that's the hardest part. And I know it just happens that we just did this AMA on throws you, but it's to me, that's the hardest part as a thrower, is that it's like, okay, well, but what I'm doing right now is working. But what you can't think about, or what you don't even see, or what you don't consider, is like, yeah, okay, you're jumping out of the back, you're jumping at the front, you're throwing 56 feet. Sporadically, here and there, you catch one, throw 56. Most of your throws 15 mid to high to low 16s, but occasionally you hit a 56 footer, right? Like that was the definition of your college career. But would you progress past 56? Maybe you get 56 mid, maybe 57 low. But at the end of the day, what I think is awesome is that, and where we're at right now, I feel, is that we're starting to see, okay, that ceiling is no longer, it's not 1750. That ceiling is that next big, huge barrier, 1830 to 1850 to 19. And that's what's going to get you to that point is understanding technique. So I think that's extremely difficult as a thrower to be able to sit there and say like, okay, so if I can change and I can buy into this, even though I'm throwing less, I'm taking those 3 steps backwards to take 30 steps forward. And I think that you buying into the system, and that's where I guess what my next question would be is, because you did gain mobility, and this is still an issue we're dealing with today. It's not that it's perfect, but it's dramatically improved. I mean, I remember you couldn't even do like a single leg squat because you were so tight.
I kept like pulling hamstrings.
Yeah.
And like quads. I remember the first time I cleaned like 85, and I like pulled something. Right. Because I was so tight.
Right. So that's where I guess from my side is, it's like, what helped you the most get through that? Was it just because you are, I think you are a pretty positive person, you've got a good support system in your family, or was it, you saw, Sam's there as well, so Sam's with us in that training environment, you saw Mo, like what, was there anything specific, or was it just more like this all-encompassing thing that sort of helped you keep grinding along and understand that the end goal is not 2017, the end goal is not 2018, the end goal isn't even, I mean, the first step to that big goal is 2019. So like, how did you get from 2016 indoors of 2017 to, I think, where you're at now, where you're just an entirely different thrower?
I definitely think that like the atmosphere here helped, because every day constantly somebody's like smashing weights, so it's pretty cool to see. And then I'm like, wow, like I remember the first time when we benched like heavy right after the new year, and I put on like, I think I gained 50 pounds in my bench. Like leaving college, I benched 225, and then we hit 275, and just seeing like the progress that we had made. And I think that like you being so positive and showing me like long-term goals helped, and then seeing myself throw 58 within the first year of training with you helped me believe a lot more.
Right.
But I think that this year, like mentally, I'm a lot stronger and focused more, because before it was like, I think I could throw 58, but then like being consistent and doing it multiple times throughout the year just helped to build confidence.
Yeah, and I think that's like the next step for me was like, okay, as a coach, I sat there and I'm backing off of everything, understanding that it's going to be hard for you to have confidence as an athlete. And I remember, following you when you were in U.S. Indoors this year, because I was at Junior Nationals. And I remember saying to Trevor, she's just got to let it fucking go. Let it go. She can throw, she can compete with these chicks. And you never had competed with them. You had never really, you'd been in the same, you had competed against them, but you had never really competed with them. Mm-hmm. And I think your first 2 throws might have been a little suspect. And I remember texting Trevor, like, she's just got to do it. She can do it. And I think for me, as the coach, that was the first meet where you did it yourself. Like, you sat there and you're like, wow, I can do this. Like that was that aha moment. And that aha moment builds into the Tucson Elite Meet, which you went 1770 again, or 617, high 60s against some of the best girls in the U.S. And then you backed it up again on that Saturday meet as well. And I feel like those aha moments, and knowing, you had a big foul at UVA, but those moments really built into more and more confidence throughout the year. And now I think that's where, for me, and this is where I want to ask you, is I see it as like, okay, those 5 or 6 meets, building that confidence now, that resulted in you going to USA's and knowing, like, you can make the finals and you can compete with them. And what's cool then is you walked away and you're like, I did well. I'm proud of what I did. I competed well, but I could have done even better. And and not that we needed you to do better at that meet, but you could have. And that's where it's like, wow, now, what's the future hold? And that's why I keep telling you, people don't even know what's going to come this year because of what we're doing in training, and where we're at now is light years ahead of even where we were at last year. So I guess, walk us through last season and U.S. Indoors, and then walk us through the outdoor season, and then what you felt like physically, mentally going into the outdoor comp.
Okay, so I remember, I guess, indoor.
And you can add in that you were pissed at me that I didn't go to U.S. Indoors. You can throw that in there too.
So leading up to U.S. Indoors, I was really extremely mad at Dane. And I don't really handle my frustrations very well, but I'm getting better at that. Leaving for USA's, I went in the mentality, like, we set a goal, make the final. And I remember, like, warming up, and, like, some were good, and then it was, like, a little bit off, but Trevor's like, you're fine. I remember my first throw, because I was the first thrower, and I was super anxious. And I think it was like 50, 51. And I was like, and the next one slipped. And I'm like, all right, the third one, like, I literally cannot repeat what I have done previously. Like, I got to do something. And I remember I threw like 55 high. And so then I was like, I calmed down a lot more and then made it through into the final. I think that indoors stemmed outdoors because I was motivated and I knew that I was able to compete. And I think going into outdoors, I guess the start was like UVA. So that was the meet when I was like confident and I felt like I could just go in and like throw far. And I remember I had a foul and that feeling, like, it was awful. And I felt like I couldn't, like, the one that I fouled, I was just like, I can't, like, I don't know. I feel like it was just, I was really extremely frustrated because I should have saved it and I needed that mark for USA's, but it was okay. And I remember leaving for Tucson and my seating was like not even that high. And I was just like, I just need to go out and compete, which I did. And I ended up PRing the first day, which was extremely exciting. And then we had a day rest. And then going into the second day, I was just like, I want to have either consistent series or like throw farther. And I ended up throwing 58 again. Mm-hmm. And then I think we had a meet here. I forget which one that was called. Yeah, that was. But I threw 57 mid again, and then we just shut it off to USA's. And then at that point, I was just like increasing like meditation. I was working with Brooks with Wim Hof, and I just felt like I was ready to go. And then I started like smashing weights, which made me feel even more like ready. And I remember like pre-meeting for USA's, and like I was taking like easy, safe throws around like 55, 56, and I just felt so confident and ready to go. And the day of, I remember you thought I was super weird because I was like singing in the car.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember you asked me, like, are you ready to go? And I was like, yep, let's go. It's game time.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I was zoned in. I didn't really care if I was in first flight. And I remember the first throw, after the first throw, I was just like, I can't have a repeat.
Yeah.
So the second throw, I just like was confident enough, knew that I could throw far, and then I let one loose. And then after that throw, I refocused. So that's the one thing that I doubt.
Right.
I mean, I lost focus. That's the one thing that like I dread or regret about USA's. Because after that, I pretty much like, I think I fouled, but I was still trying to. So I think that like moving forward, I can do a lot of things differently.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that like even just listening to you, you know, USA's indoors, you learned from a previous meet, and you're like, I don't want to repeat this, and then you changed your outlook and you fixed it. And looking at US outdoors, the same mentality was, I don't want to repeat. I fixed it. You know, second throw. Then you did peter out during the competition, but the thing is that you learn from other meets and you adapt and you improve it. And then you did that again this year at the Power Fest. Power Fest, you were in pretty good shape. Like, it was weird. You weren't in like amazing shape, but I thought you would still like catch one and you could go 18 meters potentially. And you were getting super, super pissed. And on top of that, as a coach, I wasn't helping you as much as I could have because I was doing all the talking and all that stuff. And you were just like, I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to hit a position and it's going to go. And that's what happened. You know, and that's what's cool from the coaching perspective is that 2 years ago, that wasn't even the case. Like, you couldn't have sat there and put in your head, what can I change logically that's gonna improve my outcome, because what I'm doing right now is not working. And so that's the sign of somebody who is an elite athlete, who is an elite thrower, is that you can sit back, you can make those adaptations in a comp, and then improve upon it. And I think that's what's cool is that. And then, you know, I think you went 1760 something at.
Yeah, it was like 50, 80.
Yeah, yeah, we already said that like 3 times now. I keep forgetting that PA Powerfest mark. But you did that, and that was in a good meet. You know, Sarah Mitten threw 1854, and Mo didn't throw that well, actually. I think she threw like 1740, I think, at this year's PA Powerfest. But that's, to me, what's cool is that you're sitting there and you are learning, and you're continuing to learn, and that's where you're at now technique-wise, is that, you know, 2 years ago at this point, I was sitting there like, shit, I don't know. This is a lot more than I thought I was taking on when you came. Not that I didn't want to do it, but I was like, this is going to be tough. But the way you learn and how quickly you learn is significantly better than most athletes that I've ever worked with, because you do have that ability to sit there and sit back. And yeah, you get frustrated at times, but most of the time you sit back. Even today's training, it was like, okay, those last 3 throws were your best 3 throws, but what did you do? Well, you slowed it down a little bit. You hit a better position into the middle, and then you smashed it at the front. And I think that, and that's sort of where, you know, why I even stemmed with that question this morning, where I'm like, how far do you think you can throw? Because I know what I think, but what I think doesn't matter, right? Like, it does matter to an extent, but at the end of the day, all that matters is what you're thinking and how you're able to progress as an athlete and progress as a thrower. So I guess with that being said, walk me through, or even just tell me, what are you thinking heading into 2019, especially because this is a World Championships year? That's a big, lofty goal. That's a huge goal for us, is to get to that point and to fight for that, one of those spots. And how do you see yourself approaching this year, maybe in comparison to the last 2 years? How do you see yourself changing? How do you see yourself taking some similar approaches? And where do you see yourself, you know, once, you know, a year from today?
I definitely think that this year I have to focus more on the little things. So, like, stretching, making sure that I take, like, all of my protein.
Well, she just started taking her protein religiously like a month ago.
And then making sure that my nutrition is on point. I think that those are the things that I struggled with in the past. I think that I also need to work on my meditation and Wim Hof to like help relax.
Yeah.
And I think that like just becoming as strong as possible and technically sound, which are like my main goals. So just making sure that my technique is solid so that I'm confident when I go into the meet that I can throw for. And I think that like mentally, I just have to be as tough and strong as I possibly can get, which I think that I've gotten a lot better with, because I can walk into the circle and like either focus or like know that I'm gonna throw pretty well.
Right, and I think that and that's what I was, sort of hinting at even today in training, was like your confidence now. You're more confident now because your technique is better. So it's like the more technical you are as a thrower, the better your the more confidence you have going into a meet. Then on top of that, we throw in the days that you are training with pre-workout, and you can use those days as mental prep heading into it. And as the coach, what I love, and I said this a little bit earlier, is just like where we're at now is literally working on smaller detailed things. And what's cool is like I posted that video a week ago on Instagram, and people are like, dude, she looks completely different, like a whole different thrower. And I think that's going to show in results. That's going to show in your approach. That's going to show in a lot of different aspects of competition this year, because we are at a point now. We're 2 years in, and we are light years ahead of where we were technique wise. Think about 2 years ago, we were just worrying about stopping the jump.
Yep.
And now think about 19 months from now, we're going to be at the Olympic trials. So I think that's what's exciting for me, and it's exciting that heading into this year for training perspective is that when we get these pre-workout days, what I think you do best is that you do put yourself in situations where in training, and maybe you don't even think this way, but I sit there as a coach and I'm watching you throw, and I'm envisioning you at the world trials, at the world team trials, at the Olympic trials, and that's how I sort of feel, and I just get that good vibe around what we're doing right now is going to pay off for a year from today. So this is early October, so world champs will be just finishing up. So a year from now, it's going to pay off for a year from now. It's going to pay off for 19 months from now, because you are learning how to take that training and to use the training and to use past results to positively impact you in the future. And I think that's something that everybody fails with miserably, and I don't know if that is just a gift or not, but I'm excited for where we're going. I'm excited for where we're headed, and I'm excited for all the goals that we have set up on the board. So as we finish up, I'm trying to think. I want to ask you 4. Let's go with 5 ridiculous questions that I can just pull up off the top of my head. Some throwing related, some not throwing related. Okay, so what's your number one lifting goal for the next 12 months?
To clean 120.
Oh, shit. Yes. Yes. What is your favorite food?
Chicken. Come on.
What's your favorite junk food?
Ooh, candy of all sorts.
Where's one place that you really want to compete, that you really want to throw at, like one venue that you haven't competed at?
Oh, place, Tokyo.
Okay, there we go. All right, that's good. That's perfect answer. Okay, Rachel, thanks for being on Dane's platform. That was fun. I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as me. Feel a little more pumped. A little more, or what was?